news. It's Hugh's news. Hugh's news. It's Hugh's news. Hugh's news. Hugh Grant news. Hugh's news. It's Hugh's news.
Hello, Hugh Grant fans, and welcome to Hugh's News, a Taking Hugh for Granted bonus podcast. Hugh's News aims to keep you right up to date with everything Hugh Grant, from an announcement he signed on to do a new project, right down to him doing a particularly saucy tweet. If it's big Hugh Grant news, we want you to know about it. The big news today is fans are shocked by Hugh Grant in the trailer for his new thrilling horror, Heretic. I'm Diggory, and to discuss this with me, I'm joined by my fellow Horse and Hound correspondent, Oscar Beardmore Gray. Oscar, how the bloody hell are you doing today, mate?
I'm very well, Diggs. How are you, mate? I'm very excited to talk about Heretic.
Yes. Oh, mate, so am I. It's been so long. I mean, listeners will know that, but especially for us as well. We haven't talked about some big, hot Hugh Grant news for a long time. And when it's a trailer, when it's something we can actually see and hear and enjoy and indulge in, that's when it feels the best. I just love it. It's so exciting.
It has been a little bit, hasn't it? And we'll apologise to loyal fans who have been calling out for this episode for 2 weeks now, because we are, forgive us, it is a sort of summer hiatus of some kind.
Yes.
So we are a little bit behind, as this trailer was released 2 weeks ago, but we've just been letting it marinate in our brains, thinking about it, thinking exactly what we're going to say. Diggory was in contact like the moment it dropped, so don't worry. We knew it'd come out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe I should have. Maybe when I get in contact with you with anything like this, I should also send up the sort of bat signal to everyone else, just to be like, "Don't worry, we're across it. We do know it's happened."
Yes.
Well, I guess we should jump straight into it, because I wonder, there's going to be people here who don't know what we're talking about. So, Heretic, a new film starring Hugh Grant, coming to the US and Canada on November 15th of this year, and apparently a week later in the United Kingdom on November 22nd, which is really...
Do you think that's a bit weird?
I don't know why they do this. I really don't know. Sometimes it's like months. I remember when I was a kid and I was in America, I watched Shrek 2, I came back to the UK, it didn't release for another month. I felt like an absolute don, because I'd seen Shrek 2 before everyone else. What an absolute banging film. But I don't get why they do this.
But I was going to say, don't you think it's a bit weird that they're releasing it on November the 15th, given that this is a horror film? Presumably, you would want to watch it before Halloween or on Halloween.
Hey, that's a good point. Now you've got your head really properly screwed on. That's a really good point. You know what? I reckon with this, maybe what it is actually everyone thinks that. And so I think you go, well, actually, there's a lot of big hitters to come up against that way. I mean, This is the opposite of what Ed Sheeran did when he released one of his albums. He basically worked it out that he had it all in the bag, and he was like, right, when is no one else releasing any music? And I'll do it that week. And that's when we had that horror show where the album was 17 tracks long, and the top 20 in the UK and the US was 17 tracks from Ed Sheeran, because there was nothing to come up against it. So maybe this film, Heretic, is thinking, right, we'll skip Halloween, we'll almost hit the early Christmas crowd, and hopefully we'll get some horror fans that way.
That could well be what they're going for, actually, yeah. And they'll be streaming into the theatres for Hugh.
They will. Well, streaming in and probably running out with their tails between their legs, because as I've said, this is a horror film. The synopsis that we can glean from this trailer is two missionaries, Christian by all accounts, Christian missionaries who are walking around town, and they're saying to people, "Oh, have you got time to talk about Jesus Christ?" All that sort of stuff. And they end up at an old man's house. Shouldn't really say old man. The old man is played by Hugh Grant, a young strapping lad who answers the door, and they attempt to convert him, and it turns out to be a far more dangerous location and man than they imagined. Oscar, talk me through your thoughts on the trailer and what you think of Hugh Grant in it as well. It's crazy.
It certainly had a horror feel, didn't it? It was a classic horror movie trailer, which is, it was just so odd to see Hugh in a horror movie to start off with. And I guess that was my first thought when I was watching this, is that Hugh has been in so many different genres of movie in the last 2 years. So we had, Dungeons and Dragons, which is like fantasy. We had Unfrosted, which is comedy. We had Wonka, which is, family-friendly film.
Like a musical as well, Yeah. There's singing in that, yeah.
And now we have him in a horror film. And he I think he's going to be perfect for the role. He looks evil as fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he looks like a sort of sleepy, like, patches on your elbows, sort of, man who's very knitted jumpers, sort of old elder man. I'm not going to say old man, elder statesman. So he looks quite cute, but that's almost where the sinister nature comes from. And I'm sure we'll dive into different elements of the trailer as well, but he also looks like he may be quite skilled at wood carving and stuff, because it looks like he makes little models in his house. So the house, and also when you see shots of the house, when he invites these two missionaries in, he's like, oh, come in, my wife's inside, she's making pie, and you sort of, as the advert goes on, you think, I don't think there's any pie. And I don't even think he has a wife in there. I think he might be a lying bastard.
Did you see the bit where he puts the candle down and the candle's aroma is blueberry pie?
Ah, there you go. Oh God! See, this is it. You're like one of these those YouTube accounts where it's like, where they pause it and they're like 24 things you missed in the Heretic trailer, and it's like Easter eggs from the Heretic trailer. No, that is what we want to see. Another little one that I saw. Did you spot the lovely picture of Hugh Grant and the dog?
Yes, I love that. It was like, I felt like that was like meant to be like some Bridget Jones reference, but I don't know.
Exactly.
It was
yeah.
That was pretty funny. Although I haven't seen that dog before. I don't know where that dog's come from.
So this is it. So people who haven't seen it, there's a picture, obviously, like in someone's house, you might have pictures of you when you were younger. There's a picture of a very young Hugh Grant with a lovely German Shepherd, it looks like. And they did this. Do you remember in Paddington 2, there was a bit where it cast over Phoenix Buchanan's all of his like headshots and stuff, and obviously they were actual headshots of Hugh Grant from when he was younger, and they're all horrendous and all really funny. And I'm sure this is the same case. I've obviously done some digging online, because I think this is a real photo, and I think it could be Liz Hurley's German Shepherd when they were dating. I think it could be from 1995. Because often with these things,
how do you verify that?
Yeah, I've been round. I've asked. Yeah, this is why the restraining order will come at one point, and that'll be a fun episode where we go, "Hey guys, we finally had the restraining order from Hugh Grant and his people." But yeah, I think sometimes with these shows they go, we could try and superimpose and make an image, but also if you've got a picture of you from when you're a kiddywink or when you're younger, we could just use that for the film because that's great. And it's so cute.
I think that honestly that maybe this is like an ongoing Hugh Grant joke now.
Yeah,
like he's got to get a photo of him when he was young into the movie, because obviously there's other instances of it as well, like Bridget Jones's Baby, where we see the photo of Hugh at the end of the film.
So for the funeral,
maybe it's a bit like in the Hot Fuzz trilogy, the sort of Cornetto.
Yeah,
Cornetto trilogy, as it's known, where they have to sort of reference cornettos in every film.
Yeah,
something like that.
Well, as we know, we always talk about the Hugh-niverse, where we do think there are links, disparate, some of them, but there are links between all of Hugh's films. Some of the characters are named similar things. Some of the characters say the same thing. It would be really interesting in this film if he uses the phrase bunny. Sometimes, affectionately, Hugh Grant characters across films will say, "Oh, bunny. Oh no, please! Oh, come here, bunny!" Especially, this parts of this trailer reminded me of A Very English Scandal, and when he plays Jeremy Thorpe, and when Jeremy Thorpe is saying to Norman Scott, Jeremy Thorpe, the MP who had a gay affair with a younger man named Norman Scott, and he thought a thing, "Don't be so scared." And there's this sort of horror element to that scene, where he's trying to, he's up to something no good. There was that sort of vibe in this advert where this man who appears nice on the surface wears these lovely knitted jumpers, but underneath might be a bit of a bastard. Yeah.
And so what do you think, Diggs, about what his motive could be at this point? Because we see this moment where he sort of looks like the two missionaries are in what seems like almost like a chapel within his house or something. And they're given two options, two doors to go through.
Yeah.
One that says belief and one that says disbelief, and they have to choose. And then we see this sort of shot of him playing with his wood carvings, and it looks like there's a maze or something. And of course, heretic is kind of an odd word as well.
Yes. What is a heretic?
A heretic is a non-believer, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a non-believer in sort of God or the big deity that whoever follows.
And you would be burnt at the stake as a witch if you were a heretic back in the day.
Yeah. So just bear in mind as well, if we haven't made it clear enough, these missionaries come to Hugh Grant's house and he's like, come in, I've got pie, let's have a chat about God. And then the doors are all locked and they're in this horrible like hellscape. And like Oscar says, they've got, at one of these shots is they've got this decision. There's two doors, belief or disbelief. And the film being called Heretic, I think this is what's so interesting about this film, right? Because there's loads of examples of horror films where the villain is a sort of religious fanatic. Okay, so you've got like Lord Summerisle in The Wicker Man, the father in a film called Frailty in 2001, who like commits these like horrifying acts because he thinks God is like commanding him to do them. Basically, religious fanatics going crazy. I think the motive of Hugh Grant's character is, I don't like religious people. These two missionaries have come into my house, and I'm gonna put their faith to the test. Do they believe, really, or do they disbelieve? I think it's really, really interesting. And just to underline that point, on a website here it says, Mr. Reed, who Hugh Grant plays, challenges the strength of two Mormon missionaries in their religion, making them question everything they thought they once knew about God and the devil. It's chilling stuff. I think it's a really interesting role reversal of the sort of trope of religious fanatic goes mad horror film to potentially an atheist goes mad.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And one other thing I wanted to talk about briefly, Diggs, is where this film was filmed.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. So the film was. It says on Wikipedia that it was filmed in Vancouver, which is where I live. I believe that it wasn't filmed in Vancouver. I think it was filmed in an area called Squamish, which is about an hour north of Vancouver. And this is the perfect setting for a horror movie.
Really?
Think deep, dark forests, high, tall, snowy mountains, slightly quirky people, wild animals, bears roaming around. Somewhere you do not want to get lost after dark in bad weather, basically.
Yeah. If you're stuck in a cabin in the woods at night, you're stuck there. There ain't no getting out. Yeah, wow.
That is it, exactly. And it was funny because I remember this film's been turned around quite quickly. I think it was about a year ago now, or maybe just over a year ago. Hugh Grant was in Vancouver and Squamish for an extended period. I think he was here for a month filming this film, and we got a tip off, and my friend actually bumped into Hugh Grant in the street.
God, what I'd give for that.
And he sent me a text just being like, I've just bumped into Hugh Grant. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, he doesn't come to Vancouver. This is so odd. It was a real shock to me that Hugh was just wandering the streets of Vancouver. I think he was in his gym clothes or something, going to the gym, looking quite grumpy first thing in the morning, which wouldn't surprise anyone.
I was going to say, if he's not looking grumpy, then it's not Hugh Grant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hopefully he enjoyed his month in the woods, and it's exciting. And people who don't know that Vancouver and this area of Canada is sort of known as the Hollywood North, because basically it's like, for some reason I think it's like the perfect place for big Hollywood films to film, because one, it's a lot cheaper than filming in the US.
Yeah.
And then there's something about the weather apparently that makes it quite good, because we have a lot of very overcast days, which for filming is actually very good. You don't want it to be too sunny, because then you get also glare, and you can't film in the middle of the day and stuff. So
that's interesting. But it's still kind of bright in a weird way, I suppose, because and I suppose a constant brightness, because you don't you don't want it to be clouds. You want it to be either just one sheet of cloud that just doesn't change colour, but you don't want it to be cloudy. That'd be terrible. And like you say, if it's too sunny, that's also a nightmare, because that's why they moved to Hollywood, though, because of the sun. But actually, like you say, probably there's loads of glare and stuff. That's interesting. Love that. And didn't you say there's some Ryan Reynolds or something has a big old house there and loves it?
Ryan Reynolds is from Vancouver, Diggs.
Ah, there you go. Well, and he's the king of Hollywood, at least
exactly. Yeah. Wrexham FC are playing a game actually in a couple of weeks here.
Really? Who are they playing?
They're playing the Whitecaps.
Oh, no way. That's so cool. Oh, my God. I'm so... you know what's crazy is that, we would have seen the Whitecaps and not Wrexham. I just find that wild.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Well,
anyway, off topic a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they'll play Fulham ever, because then Hugh Grant might actually be in town. That would be great. Yeah. One thing with this, though, just to get back onto the film, Oscar, that I was thinking about is this film, this horror film about a man who's probably seen far too many Jehovah's Witnesses knock on his doorbell, and now he's like really pissed off. He's like, right, I'm going to freak these ones out. We've seen horror films, like people will be, we'd said earlier, Hugh Grant obviously has been the villain many times, but how many horror films has he been in? Not too many. Obviously, we love The Lair of the White Worm around here, and he was in that. But we haven't had to watch too many horror films. How do you think you're going to cope with this film, Oscar?
That's a loaded question.
It's just because if I can say to the listeners, what was such a joy at university is obviously we would always be like, oh, let's watch a horror film, like let's do it. Oh yeah, it's got to be done. And I mean, to be fair, some members of the house would just be like, I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to go in my room and not do that. Fair play to Oscar and fair play to everyone else. They sat there, they watched the whole thing. But I'd say some more than others watched it through their fingers and through their hands. And I would say that they do. I would say that maybe some people on this call get quite scared quite easily. What would you say that's fair enough?
I would say that's fair enough. Yeah, I'll hold my hands up. I was there. I watched the films.
Oh my God,
no.
Complete
did I
props
watch
to
the
you.
films? I was
Yeah.
like
Hands
this
in
the
front
whole
of his
time.
face, exactly.
But I'm going to have to watch the whole film.
You're going to have to. And in the cinema. It's always scarier in the cinema.
Yeah. I'm going to have to, because I want to see every detail.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't, as you know, for this podcast, I have to know every detail that goes into the film. Maybe I'll have to watch it twice.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
God forbid.
I mean, Hugh has been in a few horror films, like you said.
Yeah.
But like, they're not that. They're like those kind of horror films from the 80s that are so bad that they're not really scary. Like, and I guess like we had like The Lair of the White Worm, like Night Train to Venice. Would you consider that?
I suppose, again, check out those episodes out if you want to hear more about that. But that's just a shit show. I wouldn't say that was a horror. I'd say what was horrifying was watching it, having to sit through it was a fucking horror.
I know. And I was looking at IMDb yesterday, and it has 2.4 star rating. Like, you don't see many films that bad.
That is shocking. That is so bad, isn't it? They don't get that low. They don't come in packages. You've really got to try hard to make a film that shit.
I think we could make a better horror film, like, right now.
Yeah, exactly. Almost certainly.
There's Rowing with the Wind as well, which is like the Frankenstein movie. So that is also sort of horror, and that's a classic.
And yeah, exactly. And I remember you really liked that film, and now that's
didn't.
That I know, but I'm
pointing my finger at you.
He is. I need to watch that again. Clearly, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but I do remember that was it, because I was like, I have a memory of Oscar saying that one of these films made him scared, and I was trying to work out which one it was, and it was that one. You were like, at points, I was a little bit scared. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Which fair play. Wonderful. Well. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all up to date on that. Watch the advert for Heretic if you haven't already. And I guess this is Hugh's news. Any other news about Hugh?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a relatively quiet time for Hugh. But the only other piece of news I would point to is a great little video of Hugh at the Eras tour. Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
At Wembley.
Taylor Swift's tour, yes.
With a load of other celebrities. Did you see it, Diggs? I did share it on our story.
Yes, yeah. And it pans across. Well, you know what? What the beautiful thing about it is I've seen it from different angles. And you see the amazing people who are in this tent. This is clearly like the VIP tent. And I mean, Hugh Grant sticks out like a sore thumb. Let's be real.
He's like the posh dad who's like wearing a blazer to like, he's with all these cool people. Like, I think Tom Cruise is there.
Yeah.
Who else is there? Like a load of very cool celebrities.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like Hugh looking awkward, like doing his little jig to Taylor Swift. But apparently he has mentioned Taylor a few times before about how his daughter's such a big fan, and I think he did tweet about how incredible the night was. So it clearly has made an impact on him.
I love that.
Maybe he's got the CD in the car. He's not CD, but yeah, I'm sure he doesn't have a CD in his Ferrari or whatever he's got.
With Hugh Grant, you never know, because he's always talked about the only music he knows is the band of the Grenadier Bandoliers or some, just army shit. And so it's nice that now he's got some Taylor Swift in his life. And to be honest, this is the thing. Apparently, those gigs are just, whatever it is, 100,000 people just singing every single word back. And when I say people, mostly teenage girls, but that is probably, his kids will be getting to that sort of age now. So it's so good that you got involved. I mean, apparently they are brilliant spectacles. So, yeah, fair play.
It must have been so awkward for Hugh. Just like having to talk to all these like celebs that he didn't really want to. Can you imagine him, grumpy Hugh, being forced to a Taylor Swift concert? That would have been bad enough in itself, let alone having to talk to a load of people as well.
Yeah, exactly. That poor man. Well, again, hopefully, I can imagine Hugh Grant retired somewhere and a young woman comes and knocks on his door and goes, "Hello, would you like to listen to my album? I'm called Taylor Swift." And he's like, "I would. I've got some pie on. Or my wife does in the kitchen. Just come in here. Yes, you made my life a living fucking hell." Maybe that's a spin-off of Heretic. Wonderful. I think that's probably as good a place to stop as any.
Yeah, Taylor Swift fans, heresy. That's what it is.
Exactly. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for listening, as always, everyone, and watching. I guess we are on the YouTube as well. Do check us out there. But otherwise, keep following us everywhere, where you're listening to or watching us now. Also on the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter. We are at Taking Hugh or at Taking Hugh for Granted. Just look it up. You'll find us. You'll see. And I suppose, unless there's some sort of seismic Hugh Grant news between now and then, the next time we'll speak to you, there's going to be Hugh Grant news before we speak to you again, surely. That'll be November. But if not...
There's bound to be. There's bound to be.
And if not, we'll pull something out of our arse. So, otherwise, we'll see you in November for Heretic. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
This is the end of Hugh's News. We hope you feel very Hugh's News about Hugh Grant. Hugh's News. And everything is very Hugh's News. And now it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye.
Hugh's News is a Taking Hugh for Granted production and is produced, edited and presented by Diggory Waite and Oscar Beardmore Gray. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.